Welcome to Handy HQ. If you like to build stuff, fix stuff, make stuff, you've arrived at the right channel. Please like and subscribe and hit that notification button. Welcome to my very first video on YouTube. First we're going to have a tour of my very messy workshop. I don't know if it's anything like yours, but we'll get the lights here first. I haven't managed to move the switch just yet. And yeah, one of the switches for the lights is tucked in away behind my extractor, and the other one is here. And have a quick whirl around the workshop. I have maybe, like some of you, 5 or 6 projects on the go at any one time, and therefore every conceivable surface gets piled up with hardware and tools, and here it ends up being a bit of a mess. We have a quick tour here. I've got a drill press, a milling machine. Here's an old tool grinder I've rebuilt recently. Tool wall, which I'll probably get to at some stage, how I store my tools over the years. Some natty ideas. Got a welding bench here, anvil, and some more grinders, polishers, metal cut-off saw, a press, a lathe, and yeah, I think what we're going to really concentrate as our first YouTube clip is this wonderful Lazy Susan. I call it Lazy Susan drill tidy, and I have it perched right next to the drill press. It has every conceivable type of drill bit known to man, and I'm going to dismantle it because I want to modify it a bit and show you how I went about building it. So maybe you have your own ideas, but this is what I came up with. But first of all, we're going to tidy up this place, so at least I get a couple of surfaces tidy to work from. Invariably, when I'm doing things like this, I end up maintaining things and finding new storage locations, changing the bandsaw blade, doing a quick vacuum, and now we're back to square one. It's looking a lot tidier. I got some free, at least some free bench space. Have hardware and power tools. I don't use that often, tucked away in there, and I've got liquids tucked away in that far cupboard. Then I have a combination thicknesser saw, a Robland X31, that's a Belgian machine, bandsaw, got all my spray goody gets, the drill press, milling machine, grinder, and more hardware. And then I have this little not X, it's a Hembruch, AI Hembruch. It's a Dutch metal lathe, very high precision, very nice quality. Actually have another one here under the cloth, which is for sale. Hydraulic press and a cut-off saw and a polisher and grinder. And a linisher, another guillotine, steel metal guillotine, and 150 kilo anvil. My son started to make knives out of a welding bench with a 75mm steel top, nice and heavy. Tool bench, a wooden bench would belong to my wife's father. So, but what we're going to concentrate on is this little goody get right here.
So guys, this may be what your drill sets look like when you're going to find a drill. Half of them are missing. Most of the time what the one you want is either missing or it's being cut down. It's a little bit too short, and you've got some wood drill bits specifically for cutting wood so you don't chip the wood on the way in. And maybe you've got some extra drilling accessories, like you've got a drill here for making multi-size holes in sheet metal, for conduit piping or whatever. You've got some spared bits, you've got some hole saws, you've got some Forstner bits, and maybe you've got some countersinks, 30-degree countersinks. Invariably, when you've got when your drills are in use, half the time if your eye set's anything like mine, you can't read them anymore, and therefore you've got to pick up a vernier, in order to measure them first before you use them, to make sure you've got the right drill, especially on sets where they're 0.1 millimeter changes. So I have had loads of drills, and half the time you've got them stuck in drawers like this, where you don't know actually what you've got, and what you have got, what you haven't got. And so I decided to make a little project of trying to get everything in one place, and I started to scour the internet to see what other people had done, and came up with a solution of my own. So invariably, one of the other challenges you have is that the end of your drill bits end up looking like this. I'm not sure if I can get this to focus properly, but it's generally scored, pick up from the drill chuck, and you can't read anymore what size it is. So you end up using one of these, which is like something like 10 times magnification, if your eyesight's anything like mine.
So maybe this is what your drill set looks like. This is one I inherited. It could also be a box for like this. You've never taken the time to organize it. Here's one I found on the internet, a laser etched one, a little bit fiddly. That won't last very long. And then you get trays, which are great, but they use quite a big footprint. And the challenge with trays is that once you've used a few different drill sizes, the challenge is putting them back in the right tray under the right size. And also not so easy to get a chest of drawers right next to your drill press. I like this one quite a lot. It's got multiple drilling tools, and my most preferred one is this one here with color coding. It's made by a company called KISS, and it means you can put multiple quantities into one pocket. The challenge with it is for very small diameter drills, 1 millimeter, 1.5, or that you need much smaller pockets to make it handy to use, and it wastes a bit of space as well, because the space between the cylinders. So I think it can be improved upon. So I decided to use a PVC tubes of various diameters, cut them to different lengths, and mount them something like organ pipes on a Lazy Susan. You can buy a Lazy Susan from your local IKEA. I think it's no more than €10. And if you can't find one, you can also just buy the bearing. Just Google Lazy Susan, and you can make up your own unit. So let's show you how it's done. I'll remove the drill press here, unscrew the drill tidy from this just basic computer shelf. It's a strong shelf, make sure it's strong. And that's how it looks. Let's get into how I put it together. So first of all, you have to decide which drills you want to store, and I decided to store everything from 1 millimeter to I think 28.5, every half a millimeter, and I made some exceptions for some typical sizes used in between. I added 3.2, 4.2 and 4.8, otherwise they're all within half a millimeter. Then I measured all the drill lengths and subtracted 10 or 15 millimeters respectively, and then played around with what size tubes to use. I used 16mm, 19mm conduit and 32 millimeter, and some 40 millimeter conduit. Now I want to start cutting the tube. I'm just using this opportunity to add a row of PVC tubes to my drill tidy. I used the bandsaw to cut them all off, cut them all out, make it nice and square. You can also use a circular saw or a hacksaw, or even just a normal wood saw, but try and make it as square as possible. And then I deburred the inside using a wiggly stick, and you can use a bit of sandpaper, whatever you like. I used a combination of a sanding block, a standing knife, and a little bit of sandpaper in my hand to get them all nice and smooth, so they look nice and tidy once you put them together. Then once you want to glue them together, so they ultimately look like a set of organ pipes. So you want to sand down not a flat edge, but just take the smoothness off two sides of the tubes, and you can rough them down just by hand or with a sanding block, as I've got here, and stuck to a piece of wood in the vise. Then I set them out against a straight edge to get one straight edge, because this is going to go on the, let's say, the base of the Lazy Susan, and then face all the scored bits together. I used Tech Bond 135 glue gun sticks, and it's PVC suitable. There are some glues that don't work that well. And what I did here is basically is leave the crack slightly open and then twist the new bit of tube that's going in, twist it into position. Then put a little fillet glue on both sides of the connection. Ultimately you come up with something like this, and you cut all your tubes to size, and then you can also number them a bit later. I sort of added bits on as I decided to add things on. But this is more or less what you're going to end up with. And then once you've screwed it or glued it onto your Lazy Susan, this is what it looks like. And on the back end, I'll get to a little bit later what I did to put that together. And you can set out any colors you like. I've just got a bunch of spray cans. You can use nail polish and whatever you like, but use some contrasting colors. In other words, don't put red and orange right next to each other. Make them as contrasting colors sitting next to each other. Of course, I've already done this to mine, but I've got a few drills added to each sizes here and there where they haven't been colored yet, so I'm using the opportunity to clean them up with a little bit of thinners just to degrease them, and then spray them individually. I first spray a little bit of primer undercoat on all of them, and always use a bit of white primer because it makes the color pop. So you have a nice, if it's red or if it's going to be green or yellow, whatever you want to do it, if you put a nice white undercoat underneath it, you'll get a nice bright color. So instead of spraying it just directly, of course, use some ventilated area, use a mask. I happen to have an extractor in my workshop, so extractors running doing this, and just a pair of old gloves. No need to tape them up, you just spray on the ends, and that works just fine. So I've speeded this section up. Some of the Morse taper drills I masked and sprayed the tang, the part that doesn't come in touch with the sleeve. Also used a hot air gun to give it a bit of heat to dry a bit quicker. Used the opportunity to get rid of the green I used and used this sort of nice bright yellow. It's a bit easier to see. And ultimately this is a finished product looking nice and clean. Also added some longer drills and just stuck them in behind some of the pockets. They fit in perfectly. So how much does this unit weigh when it's packed full? And get it balanced right, 18.1 kilos, which is around nearly 40 pounds in the American language. Pretty heavy for a Lazy Susan, but it seems to work quite fine. Now to put the unit back on the shelf, I just used a computer, an old computer stand shelf. Make sure it's strong enough for the weight.
Once I was finished with this side, of course, I had half of the Lazy Susan left to do something with the other side, and I thought I've got so many drill components that I used at the drill press, may as well have them in one place. And the idea was to try and get some sort of slope from the bottom to the top in order so that I could see labels, but also that you want a sort of like an amphitheater. You don't want it flat. So in keeping with the PVC tubes I used for this, I used a bit of, I think, about 80 millimeter, 60 millimeter, 40 millimeter and 32 millimeter. So that's 80 millimeter, 60, 40 and 32 millimeter bits of PVC tube. And then I just used a plane and jammed them full of wood. A solid piece of wood, a bit of a fiddle, but the idea behind it was to try and get, I wanted a hard surface to drill the holes in, because if you just have a wooden block here, and typically the wood wears out and doesn't have a nice surface, for putting the screws in, or the bits in and out, and will wear over time. So was an idea also just to get the labels, so that you could see the labels as best as good as possible. Maybe if I was doing it again, I would probably just put a wedge of wood down here from maybe 100mm, 4 inches at the top, down to 1 inch, maybe 25mm at the bottom, and just put a sheet of Lexan or something, or plastic on top, laminate to it in a horizontal curve. But anyway, whatever excites you, do your own thing. I quite like the look of this. And it's not full yet, so I still have place to drill further holes here and add bits and bobs as I go along. So yeah, I've just used the opportunity now to add this new row of PVC tubes, because I had quite a few more Morse taper drills that were lying around, so I needed a home. So I've now included them here. Keep everything in one place, that's what I say. Some of you maybe ask what all I've managed to get into this very small footprint. I've sort of added to it as I've gone along, apart from a range of drills, including some long drills which are very handy. Also got a range of center drills here which are used if you want a nice accurate starting hole of various sizes. On the side here I've also got counterbores. They're used if you want to countersink a cap screw, an Allen cap screw. So you would normally drill a pilot hole the size of the little mandrel on the end here, and then this square collar here will give you a nice square hole to recess the head of an Allen key bolt. On the side there's a little gauge, a drill gauge for measuring the size of a drill very quickly. I often use it for a wood screw to check a wood screw size, and then decide what pilot hole to drive, what size pilot hole to use. I've also got a little chart here for drill diameters for cutting threads. You know, you don't know all of them out of your head, so it's quite handy to have. I've had it probably for 20 years. And the back here is a little gauge for measuring the diameter of a hole. So if you drop this into a hole, if you don't have a vernier, this is a very quick way to measure the diameter. So if it drops into there, it'll be an 8mm hole. And on the back, it's also imperial. So that's on this side. For countersinks here as well. A magnet, which you can then use for as you're using it with the drift here to remove the chuck. And on this end, I've sort of added bits and pieces as I've gone along. Starting at the back here, I've got step drills for sheet metal. Very handy actually for enlarging hole sizes on thin material. I've got these here which are extremely handy for if you cut a threaded bar or a bolt and you want a nice quick chamfered end, especially if you've got lots of them. Put that in a drill and you can do a nice chamfered end without having to clean up with a file. These here are for when you want to put hinges, put hinges in and you want the holes nice and center. And this little collar on the outside slots inside the hole in the hinge and gives you a nice center hole for the pilot hole. And then I've got some special drills, particularly this one here is solid carbide. So if you've got something really hard to drill, it's very handy. And you can even drill through a pair of pliers if you like. Here's a set of rose bits only for wood. There's a pilot hole drill set here. There's a wood only drill set here. A fan bit set. Don't use it all the time, but it's handy when the job calls for it. 2 ranges of Forstner bits. These here are for making cross-grain dowels if you want to hide screw heads. So you drill a hole above the screw head and then plug it with a wood of the same grain. A range of hole saws, and in front here I've recently added these little drill tapping, so one operation, a drill and tap. Actually, even if you want to make a thread in wood, it's quite handy. So even on the side here you can use the wood to put the Allen keys for adjusting these collars, so everything can be added. So that's it, guys. Just quickly an idea of how I use it. Normally when you're doing a drilling operation, you don't only normally use one drill. You could use a starter drill if necessary, not always, but you can stick it on the magnet here. Then you want to maybe make some M6 holes, so you need a tapping size of drill size of 5mm, and then you want to drill part of the hole, a through hole, so you want 6.5mm, and then ultimately you want to chamfer the top of the thread, so you put that in on the shop of the thing. So you have maybe a number of little tools you're using to complete your operation, and if when you're finished, it's very simple to know where to put them back. You got this grey one here, you just put it back. If it's grey mats, you can very obviously see there's another grey one here, but it's a giant drill in comparison, or another one here. It's very obvious where it goes, so it makes it very simple for restoring the drill. This one here is black. I probably wouldn't use black again, lining up the colours. I'd rather just use colours, it's a bit more fun and a bit more easy to see. And then your center point is back here. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you like and subscribe, and there'll be plenty more coming from my shop. Thanks.